Officials from various security and intelligence agencies have now met with the Madlanga Commission to discuss heightened security measures. It follows the killing of Marius van der Merwe, who testified as witness D at the Commission. It's understood that these discussions highlighted how important it is to strengthen safety protocols for both witnesses and officials who are involved in the inquiry. Let's talk to postdoctoral researcher at the Dullah Omar Institute, Dr. Johandri Wright. Johandri, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the program. I've read some of your research around whistleblower protection and some opportunities that we have, especially in the post-state capture era, to beef up protection for whistleblowers. However, we saw the tragic events of Friday night, and I'd love your opinion on what you saw against the backdrop of everything else that we saw happen with regard to statements from the Justice Minister, that he had declined witness protection, to the beefing up of protection at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and other themes.
Well, first I want to say that perhaps it's important to distinguish between whistleblower protection and witness protection because the law does not treat them the same. So whistleblowers are essentially those that make disclosures in terms of the Protected Disclosures Act, and the protections afforded under this act is limited to occupational detriment and other labor-related matters. To be protected as a witness, you have to give evidence in front of some form of proceedings, such as the commissions or courts, etc. And then you will be entitled to apply for witness protection under the Witness Protection Act. So not all whistleblowers will necessarily enjoy the protection under the Witness Protection Act.
But when we see someone play both those roles, they're giving evidence, but they're also blowing the whistle. And I understand we'll maybe come back to the limitations in the Protected Disclosures Act, which, as you've just reminded us, encompasses employees, not necessarily contractors and people who work on the outside. But what happens when you're performing both those roles? I mean, he's being called both those things.
What happens then is you get protection under both acts, but you still need to apply under the Witness Protection Act to receive, to be entered into the Witness Protection Program, which gives you essentially a range of protection measures aimed at your physical safety, right? But van der Merwe, as I understood, refused to enter the Witness Protection Program. And this did not actually absolve the state from its constitutional duty to still provide him with protection, because we all enjoy the right to physical safety and security of their person, as confirmed by the Constitutional Court in many court cases in any event. But this just highlights our significant gap in the law for having alternative processes in place to provide physical and other forms of protection to whistleblowers that's beyond just occupational detriment, and that does not necessarily include entering the Witness Protection Program.
When you say, Johandri, that it doesn't absolve the state from providing him protection, what should that have looked like?
It could have looked like a range of different things. For example, and I say this with great caution, having police uniforms outside of his house, as acting as security personnel. But that being said, witness protection efforts can only be as effective as the institutions administering it. And we have seen now that our main institution responsible for protecting people, SAPS in other words, might not be as strong as we would hope this institution to be, which means that the protection that we can practically give these people are quite limited.
Given, as you say, that there should have been something that the state would have done, it doesn't absolve the state from providing him with protection. We saw what happened on Friday, and you can see how distraught the family is. All of this happened in full view of two small children. Is there, and this is perhaps on the side of the main event itself, but is there a case that the family could launch against the state under these circumstances?
This is not my a area of niche expertise, but the family should be able, in principle, to approach the Constitutional Court for constitutional damages. This has also been one of my recommendations in many of my research, that once we consider the bill to protect whistleblowers, that the state should really seriously consider adding a remedy for when there's a loss of a breadwinner, as we see in this case, and even in Babita's case, that if there was a whistleblower and the state failed to protect that whistleblower, that at least the family has got some form of remedy for the loss of a breadwinner.
Johandri is talking about Babita Diakaran and the corruption at the Tembisa Hospital here in Gauteng. You talked about gaps in the law. So you've got the Protected Disclosures Act, which you've just mentioned now. We've got the Whistleblower Protection Act. And we've also got the Whistleblowers Protection Bill, which seems to, or which intends and seeks to address the gaps in those two existing pieces of legislation. Just highlight for us again, you touched on it lightly at the beginning, those gaps, and when might this bill actually, be formalized and become an act, and then take care of, as you say, these anomalies that exist in the legal framework?
So this bill is being drafted. It's not even been introduced in Parliament yet. So we see promises from the Deputy Minister of Department of Justice and Constitutional Development that we would see the first draft introduced in Parliament in 2026. And then there's still a public participation process and some other processes that has to take place. So it will really be a push to get it formalized and into law in 2026. We'd be very lucky if that happens. Some of the reforms that we would like to see, and some of it is actually being drafted into the bill, is to get a very clear definition of who is a whistleblower and not just limited to an pre-existing employment relationship. We want to see that retaliation is being expanded, that it's beyond just occupational detriment, because there's so much more that people are doing against whistleblowers. We want to see a proactive system of protection rather than a reactive system. So proactive in the sense of when you make a complaint or a report, that there's sufficient confidentiality to protect that person. So it's beyond anonymity. It's actually protecting the information within that report as well. And when this report, or when parts of this report, can be made public. We also, as I said, it would be nice to see something such as a remedy for the loss of a breadwinner. And then some other proposals that we've seen is to support whistleblowers with legal support, to give them access to psychological services in temporary financial aid, etc.
Already we've seen, and it's described as the chilling effect. I'm seeing a report in The Citizen over the weekend where they said that some witnesses might be reticent about coming forward to give testimony in the aftermath of this murder. In your experience, how widespread has this become? People feeling too afraid to come forward when they look at what happens to other people who've done the same. And with that in mind, how should the Commission and everyone involved what should they be doing to ensure that there is a level of confidence and safety in the process, very critical process of giving evidence in an incredibly important matter?
Yes, so this would be a very good question to ask a social scientist. I have not spoken to whistleblowers directly, but if you just keep track of all of the news reports, we have at least 4 people that I know of, 4 whistleblowers that has been assassinated this year. So to get a chilling effect is the right way to describe it. It would definitely deter someone as myself from blowing the whistle, because the costs of being a whistleblower is very, very real, especially if you have a family to take care of. I mean, you can't deny that it is a very steep cost to pay, and we don't see a lot of reaction on the reports actually being made. So often than not, after a whistleblower has been assassinated, there's huge media involvement into investigations of their murder, to bringing the people who pulled the trigger to account, but we don't really see anything happening with that information. I mean, it took 4 years for the state to act on the information that Babita provided them, which 4 years, it was 4 years too long, in my opinion. What the state could be doing is to maybe give some reassurance on the protection measures and to actually provide such protection measures. It does make it a little bit more challenging with the Madlanga Commission. It's very public, it's publicized very widely, so a lot of people have access to it. So maybe we need some additional measures there to keep the people giving evidence a little bit more confidentiality and protection, even though we want to see transparency, but we need to start weighing up the risk of that individual versus our need to see everything broadcasted live.
Yeah, that's going to be a sensitive balancing act, and it seems as if we're in that process then, with all of the meeting of all the key stakeholders with regard to that, to try and figure out the best way forward. You know, you have written about what you think should be happening in the space, especially post-state capture. You know, the proposal which are on the table already, the proposals which are on the table already of an anti-corruption commission, of also letting whistleblowers almost know, and I think those provisions are made in the Public Disclosures Act, of what they would be up against going in if they go this route, what protections are available to them, especially those that would extend to their families. Just talk to us then about making this decision to come forward in the light and share what you know and the experience that you're likely to have afterwards.
So again, I have strictly legal analysis in this area, but lucky we have the Whistleblower Protection House, which specializes in exactly this. So before making the decision to blow the whistle, it's not a decision to be taken lightly. There has been many accounts written up by journalist Mandy on what you can expect when you are a whistleblower, and the types of support you might likely need. And I think I would limit myself by just saying to really, when you want to be a whistleblower, to approach institutions such as the Whistleblower House and get yourself equipped with the right tools first before blowing the whistle. Know what protections are out there and know what you can do yourself to keep yourself safe.
Dr. Johandri Wright, thank you very much. And just referencing the work of my colleague, Amanda Wiener, their book that she's written about whistleblowers. Appreciate your time. It is a grave moment we are in as a country, and there's a lot of food for thought there. We'll come back at the top.